and into our attic's archive section to bring our congregation's first membership book out into the light. We pored over the names of people who had become members since the first signer, Russell Hinman, joined the Unitarian Church in Summit on February 16th, 1908. Robin, Tooley, and I are often asked a singular question: so what does it mean to be a member of this place, this community? And I'll say, it's not so much of a checklist, sign here, volunteer there, contribute here, although there are components of that, as it is a transformation of the heart. Upon entering our doors, visitors make no bones about the fact that they are shopping for a community. It's the language of consumerism. We've come to receive goods and services from this community, and in exchange, we'll give you resources, presents, time, money. That is one way to experience membership, and it's often where we begin as we come in as church shoppers. However, I have noticed a key shift that occurs for our members over time. Our hearts move from considering, what can I get from this place, to how can I be a part of our community's legacy? That's certainly the lesson of Russell Hinman. I suspect that we could learn a lot about our membership from members celebrating anniversaries today. What did membership mean to you on day one? And what does it mean after 25 years? At the end of my sophomore year of college, my grandparents volunteered to move my myriad belongings into a local storage unit. It's been 20 plus years since that hot Saturday in May in South Carolina, and nevertheless one moment has stayed with me. It was the moment of completion. My storage unit was finally filled with boxes. My dorm room was swept clean and empty. It echoed. We were exiting the dorm, and my grandfather took a moment to hold the door open for my grandmother and I to walk through. And there waiting for us on the other side through the door was a single mom and her daughter, arms filled with empty boxes. And in that instant, I knew in my bones what would happen next. My gaze moved from the image of the single mom and her daughter to my grandfather, who was taking in these two strangers at the beginning of their moving process. Oh no, I thought selfishly, this is not happening. I could almost hear the gears of his inner machine work moving into action. And that was when I knew the three of us would be sacrificing our well-earned relaxation to help two fellow human beings. Ma'am, he began in his gentle West Virginian accent, could you use some help? You could see the relief in the mother's eyes. And so we three re-entered the dorm with mother and daughter and began filling those empty boxes, staying well into the evening, ordering out a shared meal, and leaving only when another room was swept clean and empty. Whenever I hear Marge Piercy's poem To Be of Use, I think of my grandfather holding open the door for those two strangers. I know that in that moment, he planted a seed within me that has rooted and grown, that remains within me long after his death. Whenever I feel the compulsion to do what needs to be done, I can see now the look of horror on my own children's faces. Why, Mom? Why? Because Jimmy Dad taught us that the foundation of a community is built when we make sacrifices to help one another. If I'm not careful, these sacrifices can feel like I am nothing but an ox to a heavy cart, as Marge Piercy says. If I am not mindful, I can grow exhausted and resentful. Because Marge Piercy is right. The work of the world is common as mud. It smears the hand and it crumbles to dust. And in those moments, if I am not mindful, I can feel used up. Membership can feel the same. From balancing budgets to building a new sanctuary, it can just feel like work. And don't we have enough work to do? In those moments, we have to remember why the work is so important to us. And on Friday night, I remembered. Our fifth graders gathered downstairs with their parents for their annual values auction. We were auctioning off values. Divided into two teams, the Limitless Mets versus the Super Callies. Each team were given a list of 30 or so values. Things like, being honest, spending time in nature, enjoying downtime, like watching TV and playing video games. Each team had agreed on 3 to 4 values that were most important to us, and we were there to outbid the other team so that we could win the value. Our auctioneer was the shameless Dr. Tuli Patel. And we got into bidding wars over values like being a good friend to others and the freedom to make our own choices. However, we heard crickets when values such as being well-liked and popular came up, or having money and nice clothes, or getting good grades. No bids went up. Tuli took us to task. Come on, she teased. You're really trying to tell me that we, who live in a suburb of New York City, don't like money, or getting good grades, or being well-liked? Really? Really? I see how important being honest is. I was like, Julie, they're fifth graders. She then asked us to look at the list again and to name what we saw. And we noticed that in the list of what we bid on and what we hadn't bid on, that we had rejected the world as it is. We had rejected the values of appearances and popularity, greed, and scarcity that we are told are so important. And instead, we bid and bid high on the world as we wish it would be. We claim the values of freedom and kindness, celebrating differences and caring for our blue boat home. That's the world we wanted to build. It was the thing worth doing well. And that was our why. That is why we work for the world that we wish it would be. When Russell Hinman wrote his name on the line, he bid high on the world he dreamed of, on this beloved community. And he spent life planting those seeds. We today enjoy the fruit of his labor, his and so many others. This community of deeply shared values. It's still here. And each year we carefully tend to and replant those seeds for a harvest we may never see. That, my friends, is what it means to be a member at Beacon.
It is such a pleasure to be able to hear Mitchell playing the piano. I feel like it really makes this Anniversaries Sunday complete, and thank you for making the trip from New York City. Would you please stand as you are able and join in singing hymn 151, I Wish I Knew How.
Say career after listening to that. But refurbishings. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wise refurbishings and rampant, foolish reupholstering. It was the epoch of restoration, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of well-chosen patterns. It was the season of ill-conceived velour. Upstate New York, 14 years ago, I found a chair at an estate sale. It had the most glorious shape to it, a high arched back with a smooth curve down to luxurious arms. It was a throne. Albeit a well-used throne. The once vibrant blue velour had been worn down, brushed out to a sky blue in some places, and in others, nearly holes that revealed the disappearing batting beneath. Somehow drawn to it, I sat in the chair and instantly was taken back to the days of riding in a truck in upstate New York. The experience of the bucket seat. The improvised seat, the bucket placed between two actual seats. And though the nostalgia told me I should not make this purchase, I could see who the chair wanted to be. And so I brought it home. Determined to bring it to its fullest glory, did I have experience in reupholstering? No, absolutely not. But as an only child in a slightly dysfunctional family, I was much convinced I could do this without any support. How hard could it be? I read a book and I went out to get all of my materials, needle nose pliers, a stapler, a tack hammer, webbing stretcher, batting, fabric, trim, and glue. I started with an arm that seemed easy enough, the smallest surface area on the chair. But quickly I had backed myself into a wing-backed corner with no hope of escape and some clear confusion as to how the chair itself was assembled. Several weeks of tacks and glue and mayhem and words of blessing later, I abandoned the project. Perhaps about 15 years ago, the chairs in this sanctuary were in need of some TLC. They had served a long time and the cane chairs were not exactly comfortable. While they encouraged a certain attentiveness in the service, it was a pained one. Helen Kerr, a member of the community and fabric artist who sits before me now, was interested and willing, thank goodness, to help support the chairs receiving some love. And I suppose may have been motivated in part by some personal desire for comfort. Another member endeavored to help support the project, even providing a significant amount of funding for it to be complete. A fabric was obtained after some careful deliberation as well. I suppose because there was an expert at the helm, another expert was obtained in order to complete and begin the project. Removable cushions were added for the back that you now enjoy. And some time later, after a great deal of anticipation, the chairs were ready. Delivered, I imagine, to this sanctuary. There they sat, the same and yet somehow elevated, inviting. The vision of a more charitable experience for the beloved bodies of our community had been achieved. Helen came into the sanctuary, sizing up the chairs, companioned by the generous benefactor, and I imagine all of the anticipation of that moment, the long-awaited product was here. The fabric looked exactly as it had been desired to be. And so the benefactor sat in a chair opposite Helen. And I am told a slight look came across the face. It may have been just a few seconds, but one might describe it as a grimace. And for that sliver of a second, Helen detected some unpleasantness in the experience of being seated. Do you like it? Well, it's just not comfortable. Congregants began arriving, enjoying the new chairs, ahs and oohs with positive comments. The service was met for the majority without any pain, and perhaps even a few found themselves nodding off in relief. Flashback to the velour. I attend an auction and I win a custom reupholstery. 10 years after the project is begun, it is completed by a professional. The chair is comfortable and it looks good, but it largely goes unused until I adopt a cat who instantly takes to the chair as only cats can. And I find myself cleaning the chair but never able to remove all of the hair from all of the corners or to stop the scratching. And then one day I discover one of the chair legs has a scent to it, but not the kind that one would desire in a Yankee Candle, for example. I clean the leg, but realize that the dynamic is an impossible one. At long last, I decide the best decision is to give up the chair, and I do so at a yard sale. Back to the uncomfortable congregant. Helen felt a certain responsibility to obtain at least one chair that would be comfortable. Special chairs were ordered, but none quite fit the bill. At last, the reupholstery benefactor said with grace and ease one week, "Please don't worry about it anymore." Sunday after Sunday for years, the benefactor continued to come to this sanctuary, to sit in the chairs in which you now sit, perhaps shifting a bit, but nonetheless, I am told, enjoying the smiles and the comfort of those around her. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I cannot promise that community is without risk, disappointment, and struggle, because life itself has these things. But perhaps there is a way that even these things are brought into beauty and a meaning that is absent in the singular or even the familial. Somehow the bruised becomes beloved, the dim illumined, and the bare clothed in beauty and brilliance. Amidst the sacrifices made and the compromises reached and the tension in the diversity, what a thing beyond words can come into being, even for a brief moment. Whatever you name it, it moves in this place. We give thanks for all those upholstering, refurbishing, weaving the threads, enduring the disappointments, delighting in the abundance and the release to which we are each called by this faith. The pitcher cries out for water to carry, and people for work that is real. O grout of the ages, O great grout that was and